Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to this very, very special and unique segment of the Black Muslim Festival during our Wealth Weekend. As I have said in previous sessions, we are looking at wealth from a holistic perspective where it encompasses your health, your money, and your impact on your legacy in the world, inshallah. And joining me today are two very, very special people who are going to be talking to us about specifically the money piece, okay? The wealth side, the monetization side, the currency side, okay? So this is like the actual money piece. And joining me today is Brother Nazir, al-Mujaahid. You may be familiar with him from his work with outstanding personal relationships, but he got a thing or two to say about money too. So alhamdulillah, and business in general and coaching. So I'll let him tell you a little bit more about that side of his work when we introduce him. But we also have Sister Maryam Mohammed from Wealth Paradigm. And if you were in our previous session, then you will of course know that she was teaching about, fulfillment and wealth and all those 5 sections of the Sharia. So alhamdulillah, just want to say welcome you guys, both of you. Jazakumullahu khair, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you
so much, sister.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so let's kick this off with just a really brief conversation about Muslims and money. What is the deal with our relationship with money? What do you see going on? What have you seen in the community? How are we doing in that area? Anybody like to start? Jump in.
Ladies first, go ahead, Ukhti.
Okay, so thank you for this opportunity. So if I get your question correctly, you're saying, what have I noticed generally as a trend among Muslims, right? When it comes to money?
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. I think I've noticed a lot of laid back thing, which is just brought about by, I would say, guilt. Because I struggled with it personally. I told you my story, right? So guilt, many of us tend to ask ourselves, if I make so much money, would I remember my five daily prayers? Would I, be kind to my mother? Would I still speak to my in-laws? Would I still be a good person? So I've noticed a trend of, not taking charge, forgetting. And I love this piece. A friend of mine reminded me a few years ago. She said, forgetting that a pillar of Islam is actually zakah. And who gives zakah? Just who generally gives zakah? You have to have kept wealth for at least a year. Yeah. So naturally, it's the wealthy that gives zakah. So I think we have adopted this lopsided view of wealth as though it's a bad thing. It's something that it takes you away from Allah and stuff like that, for good reason, because there have been people who have been affected that way. But I really do think that once we start to change the narrative, and I started with my own self, it wasn't easy. I remember just crying, and I told you, right? So it's never easy, especially when you come from that model of the world. But I think that it's a beautiful journey to embark on, just seeing wealth as it is, seeing the benefits, and seeing how, as a Muslim, Allah wants us to be wealthy in order for us to deliver on the purpose that He created us for.
MashaAllah, I love that. And I love what you mentioned about our model of the world being, really such a huge part of how we view money. What about you, Brother Nazir? What have you been seeing? What have you seen from the community?
Well, I see the same challenges that human beings have kind of in general. Instead of looking at what they consider money as being something neutral, we look at it as though it has something behind it. All right, because the reality is, if you're a good person, money, good organization, money, that's going to help you further your message, do more good. However, if you're bad or have negative intentions, then that same money coming in will help you do worse. So the challenge comes with how we're schooled many times. I'm going to talk about that when I come really into mindset, because money is something that's neutral. It benefits depending on the person and what's behind it, and it also can harm. The challenge is when it comes to us and really understanding what Allah Ta'ala says when He says, Wallahu khayru razaqin. When we talked about the things that we're going to be asked about on Yawm al-Qiyamah, when 2 of those things are related to money, how you gathered it, and also how you spent it. That's a very, very serious topic. All right. And until we're all dealt with on that, heavy day, not until the last little bit is already made of it, then we know some people won't have anything and they'll get into Jannah without any questioning. So it's tied to what we do, but our feelings about it in particular are very important, because those feelings can dictate our behavior for the positive or the negative.
Yes, subhanAllah, Jazakallah khair. I think that's so important. And, you mentioned that phrase, that money is neutral. And of course, we have so much evidence stacked up over the years, in our communities, in our cultures, in our system, sayings, customs, traditions, all of these things that make, give money some kind of energy of its own, So I'm really, really excited to kind of, just really sit back, relax, and not say anything, and just allow, Brother Nadir firstly to talk to us, about wealth, about money, about currency, etc. And, I'm ready to be in school. So I'm going to put my camera off. Sister Maryam, I can put yours off as well, inshallah. And we're just going to get our pens and papers out. And guys, take notes, inshallah. Brother Nadir, please take it away, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay. Again, for those of you, I'm standing up because I have better energy that way, but I'm going to be cognizant of the time and everything. So if you have something to write with, something to write on, please take this information down. One, the goal of what I'm going to talk about is really helping increase your financial IQ, your financial intelligence quotient. It's extremely important. I started the journey a little over 25 years ago. Thankfully, I had some people that saw more in me than I saw myself. And they started directing me and giving me guidance and mentoring me and so on this topic of money, because I just a little bit about my background. I'm the oldest of 6 children, okay? And I came from poverty. My father, is Black American, mother's Puerto Rican. So I usually joke a lot when I say, and then in the US, you understand this, that we came from mayonnaise sandwiches or tortillas with butter. All right, those are the smallest things you could have something to kind of eat with. So we were broke on both sides. My parents were married for about 7 years and they were always working. So I'm the oldest trying to really hold stuff together. We really didn't have money. So, they didn't leave a blueprint. They didn't invest in us. They told us, go to school, get good grades, get a good job. And I'll talk about where that fits, but I really want you to understand when you're talking about wealth and we're talking about monetization or wealth creation, it starts in your mind. There's a famous quote by Benjamin Franklin. He says, if you pour your purse into your mind will turn back around and pour it into your purse, which means you have to invest in you. So first, I want to honor you and congratulate you for investing right now, the most important commodity that you have, which is time. All right, which is time. So congratulations, number one. Now, the first lesson is to know the difference between currency and money. They are not the same. It's very, very important. This, again, example. This is currency. This is currency. This is US currency. You're in the UK, you have different pounds and colors and all that, right? This is currency. Nobody goes and they try to find a ship that has a whole bunch of currency that floated to the bottom, or, there was a ship with treasure on it and they go and try to bid it. No, not at all. Currency is basically what's called government mandated money. Now, there's some dates and things that are very, very important, that are critical for you to understand, especially at this time with this pandemic. So, a couple of things. Money, Sharia money in Islam, gold and silver. That has intrinsic value in and of itself. Now, for example, these bills here, it's about 4 cents to print. This is a $100 US bill. This is a $20 US bill. They cost about the same to print. There's no intrinsic value in this at all, other than the paper, some of the bond papers written on, some of the ink that's used on it. However, in the Sharia, what's important is, as Muslims, in this Islamic economic system, which is the best thing out there, which a lot of the central bankers are scared of, intrinsic value, that's this here, for example. Here, let me demonstrating today. So these are my favorite right here. These are silver eagles, US silver eagles. These are 1 troy ounce of silver, okay? And right now, I think it's like $24, $25 an ounce is considered. And this right here is a US gold eagle, 1 troy ounce, okay? The intrinsic value of these, right now, this is almost $2,000 an ounce. So it's a little over $1,900 per ounce for gold, and 24. Now, if I wanted to spin this as a currency, it states on here actually, that 1 fine ounce of gold, $50. So as currency, this is only worth $50. And as currency, this is only, the silver is only worth 1. This is important to understand. After the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank, and I'm not going to go into any type of different conspiracies or actually a lot of facts that go along with it, but I'm just going to give you some dates that are very important to remember. 1914, creation of the Federal Reserve, really changed a lot with our monetary system across the world. So remember that date? Well, not a specific date, but the year 1914. 1934, US citizens were prohibited from taking what used to be US dollars, redeemable, to you can take this to a bank, because obviously you don't want to carry around a whole bunch of satchels and bags and jugs and jars full of coins. So you would be able to take this exchange to make things easier. However, 1934, these no longer were redeemable to get gold or silver from the banks. I don't know about you, but when I was younger watching cartoons in the 80s and 90s, 80s, they used to have cartoons or like Bugs Bunny or something. They would go into a bank vault and the bank vault would have gold. Now this bank vault is just cash. The gold is where stuff used to be stored. 1934, that stopped for US citizens. What's important, 1944, end of the World War. And again, I know I'm talking to a lot of my brothers and sisters across the pond in the UK and different parts of the world. Well, in 1944, there was something called the Breton Woods Agreement. And I really want you to take notes, because each one of these points are so relevant right now. It's ridiculous. But 1944, World War I, or World War II, actually. And coming to the end of it, US got in it. Nevertheless, Bretton Woods Agreement said that all of the rest of the world's currencies, which prior to this time, they had their own markets and everything, but it'd be pegged to the US dollar. And the US dollar for international central banks was backed by gold, which means any of these countries, I don't care if you're talking about China, you're talking about UK, France in particular, all these places, they can redeem their US dollars for gold. So many sent their gold over here. We have Fort Knox and different other places. So that's 1944. Now let's jump to 1971, because what does every government do? They overspend, they overextend themselves. They want to expand for empire, fund all kinds of things. It is what it is. I mean, we can go back to the first currency crash of Athens back 5,000 years ago. So what does that have to do with today? 1971, Richard Nixon, after France was like, hey, US is printing a whole bunch of money to fund this Vietnam War and this Korean War. They can't be having enough of this. And he was right. France was right. We were overprinting, overextending. So what Richard Nixon did was he canceled the redeemability of dollars from foreign central banks in gold, similar to what he did to US citizens. So the first time in the history of the planet, in our recorded history, the entire world is currently on fiat currency. Fiat currency means it's government mandated money. Not really money. We call it money, but it's not really money. Again, it has no intrinsic value. They can print up as much as they want to. As the US just printed up over 6 trillion since March with this pandemic. And if you know anything about basic economics, you already know when you print that up, the same amount of dollars are chasing the same amount of goods and services, which means inflation should be rampant, and it's coming. It's absolutely coming. So don't say all that to scare you. You just need to know the difference and how it applies to today. The average fiat currency lasts 27 years. 27. 1971 is when the entire world went on fiat, which is so important. It's not forex stuff. This is real money. Again, you have money. They come in tubes and stuff like that. Or you have currency. They are not the same. Check out Zimbabwe. That's the first lesson, because that will lead you to hours of studying. I'm also going to give you some resources as well. One book I suggest you get for free, download it for free. You go to goldsilver.com. You can get this book called Your Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver. It's going to help you understand what money is versus currency. It also helps you with wealth cycles. The author of the book is named Mike Maloney. Mike Maloney, and I'll suggest you go on YouTube, look up his video called Wealth Cycles, because about every 70, 80 years, there are different cycles that are going on. In monetary cycles, every 30 to 40, and we're in that range right now. So without going into the whole pandemic and what happened back in September 2019, let's move on. Talk about the Feds, and I have some notes just in front of me so we're on the same page. Now, 27 years, we've been 1998, so we're 22 years past due from this going to zero or this monetary system changing. Whether you're talking about digital or whatnot, totally up to you. So let's get busy and talk about entrepreneurship and what's important. 3 types of business classes. Now, I'm talking about entrepreneurship because I was told, go to school, get good grades, get a good job, right? And that used to be good information at the beginning of the industrial age. You can go work for a company, work for a few decades, retire with a gold watch or something, get a pension, and they pay you, right? And now it's a 401k that gets exploited by Wall Street bankers or whatnot. The challenge is, are you in control? There are 3 different plans that I suggest everybody have. One, you need the secure plan. The secure plan is, this is what's coming in, this will take care of my bills. on the lowest level, this is where I can take care of myself and my family. That's a secure plan. Okay, that means I'm not homeless. I'm not living it up at all, but I'm not homeless, but I have my basic needs and things covered. So I have somewhere to sleep, I have some food to eat, I have some basic things. That's a secure plan. The next plan is the comfortable plan. Comfortable plan is, okay, I have my basic needs covered, but on top of that, also, maybe I can go out to eat once in a while, whether it's COVID times or not, or order in nowadays, or have other entertainment, or spend some time and do some travel or whatnot. That's a comfortable plan. And then there's the rich plan. Now, what's important, at least for me, my background, who am I to say all of this stuff? Well, I have a good enough diploma, what's called a GED. I went to school, Christian grade school, Christian high school up to 10th grade, got kicked out of school. Alhamdulillah, found Islam about 16, 17 years old. Had a number of different mentors, a lot of different life situations happened. But one of the things I always know, I want to be an entrepreneur. My great uncle was one of the first who really inspired me. What he did is, the history of America and slavery history here is the epitome of white supremacy and how they built this nation. There's a really good book called The Half Has Never Been Told by Ed Baptist that really go into the trillions that were made and what caused the United States to really rise to be the superpower that it become, so much so that they could peg the rest of the world's currencies to its own US dollar, which again is still ruling right now, despite like the BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, going and trading within their own country. You know, this whole thing about the petrodollar and being able to trade oil, which you have to pay US dollars, or Visa, and you have to go through US banks, that is very, very enriching for us. Because one of the things we do as the United States is we deport our inflation quite a bit, whether it be down in Venezuela or throughout the Muslim world. It happens all the time. But if we don't know this difference between money and currency, we get jacked. One of the amazing things is, as I was studying more about it in the fall of the Islamic State or the Khilafah back in 1924, but there were a number of different ulama that were talking about zakat. And how do we pay zakat on something that doesn't really have intrinsic value? So there was a whole differing of opinions. It really doesn't exist right now, but whether or not it's applicable on currency versus actual dollars. Really, really interesting when it comes to studying, again, the history of money, but then you see the wisdom of this interest prohibition in Islam and the money actually having value. So things like that are going on right now with this house of cards wouldn't affect us. So let's get back. So my history, GD, got kicked out of school. But back in 1996, I was introduced to personal development leadership and started studying money. So what I will tell you is this. If you're looking just for some quick strategies, those are easy to find, but you can get taken advantage of a lot of times because many times they're scams. But when you increase your financial IQ, then you are able to discern what's good, what isn't, whether you're looking at crypto, when's a good time to invest in the stock market if you're into that, what's a good piece of real estate internationally, locally, what's a good knowledge commerce business and how to effectively make it, market it, how to delegate intelligently because you've increased your financial IQ. That's the most important piece. If you're looking just for do this, 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 and that, that'd be foolish of me because I wouldn't be concerned about you. So here's some resources and books that I read, for example, just to get you started on the journey. And I love books. I mean, you know, the first revelation was Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Now I wasn't just talking about go and read financial books, but I remember Abdullah ibn Mubarak, or I remember the companion's name. I'm sure somebody could remind me in the comments. He was a Muhajir, and he was asked, I forgot who was asked. The whole story, he was like, point me to the souk. That's his important thing. He came back wealthy. I don't remember who it is. I'm sure you would know, but inshallah ta'ala remind me. Nevertheless, this is one of the first books I read. And if you have children, because I'm one of the co-founders of Outstanding Personal Relationships, these are my wives, Coach Nyla and Coach Fatima. If you have children, then you probably have some books that are jacked up like this. Like, I don't know what happened to the front of this book, but it's called Think and Grow Rich. The original Think and Grow Rich. This one was written back in the 30s. So it has some weird English, and I know I'm in the US, and many of you probably saying I speak with a weird accent anyway, but it's written in the 30s. I suggest you get this book. There's an entire chapter in here on the Prophet ﷺ dealing with persistence. Yeah, in the 1930s, there's a book talking about Think and Grow Rich. It's not go to school, get good grades, get a job, and grow rich. This book was an accumulation, amalgamation of 25 years of interviews of the wealthiest people on the planet at that time. Okay, so we're talking about Andrew Carnegie, one of the first billionaires, commissioned Napoleon Hill to interview a bunch of his friends and other wealthy individuals. So he did. He boiled the book down to 13 principles to grow rich. And it starts with thinking. So thinking and growing rich. I suggest that. Read this, every couple of years at least, have your children on it. Again, all of these things matter because this is about education and not schooling. Now, I remember a quote that Mark Twain said, never let schooling interfere with your education. All right, this is one of the first, and I'm going to kind of go through them quickly and then talk about actually some strategy. And I'm paying attention to time. Actually, I'm going to speak a little fast. I'll slow down for you a little bit because I know I can go. All right, what I'm currently reading, Entrepreneur Solution by Mel Abraham. He's mentored by one of my mentors, Grit, Angela Duckworth. Now, you might like audiobooks. I prefer physical books. I like these. But I also listen to audiobooks too because I also travel a lot. These are just a few of the books in one of my libraries. Start Your Own Corporation. Gary Sutton, attorney. Own Your Own Corporation. Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver. Again, you need to download this book. This book, Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver. Oh, wealth of information and knowledge. And you can get it for free. Download that at goldandsilver.com. High Performance Habits. Guide to Investing. Robert Kiyosaki is super dope. After Think and Grow Rich, I would suggest having this as the next book, not this. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. As the next book. You might be like, I came on here so I can get some information on how I can do with wealth. I'm giving it to you now. We're laying the foundation now. If your foundation is shaky, doesn't matter what type of business, what type of ventures or investing you get into, it's likely going to depend on someone else if you can't stand on your own. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Of course, I was talking about rich kid, smart kid. I mean, having 10 biological children and 2 bonus children, you kind of need to know this stuff, right? On top of that, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. This is the workbook that I go through and train brothers on every week and then train my family on as well. The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Why? Not only is it about thinking, it's about leading ourselves first, being motivated enough to move forward. Me, for example, when I talk about a secure plan makes sure that there's money coming in, there's currency coming in enough to take care of all the bills and have stuff over your head. Now, here's the challenge. We also have to question how we as Muslims define wealth. People talk about they're wealthy, and when we talk about rich, we usually only think about finances. That is very, very limiting. When people ask me, they say, okay, well, you practice polygyny. Like Coach Fast and I, we married 25 years. So 15 years in monogamy and then 10 years in polygyny. And they ask the question, well, do you have to be rich? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Now, do you have to be financially rich? No, you don't necessarily have to be. But emotionally, leadership-wise, being able to handle things, yes, you do need to be rich. We have to watch how we define words. So this is what I consider being wealthy. Wealthy is that you have enough income coming in without you working for it, so that should you lose your job, if you have a job, which is okay, you have a job, should you lose your job, but now you have assets that are pouring into you, you're winning, you're wealthy. See, wealth doesn't have much to do with how much, more as it does with the length of time. So are you 6 months wealthy? Do you have 6 months worth of expenses? Should everything shut down like it did in the springtime, for example, this pandemic? Did you have enough to pay your expenses for the next 6 months, or worry about being homeless or having food or being, so how wealthy are you? Are you wealthy just enough to the next check on a job? Because now these books and these things that you're learning that raise your financial IQ help you do better. I'm going to go through just a few more of these. These are really good. Tipping point, understand different trends, and look. It's not about how much you make, it's how much you keep. So that book is $3, okay? $3. Now it's a $15 book. It's worth much more than that. But the Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell, $3. Teaching your children to get inspired, Millionaire, 14 years old. Millionaire Success Habits, Dean Graziosi, Slight Edge Philosophy, Jeff Olson. I'll go through more and more books, but I'm gonna, let me see. Nothing else in particular. They're good, but nothing else in particular. I think you got the point. I really think you have the point. I pray you get the point. It's about continuing education and investing in yourself. Once you know the difference between currency and money, you can use your currency to buy some money. That's used more as a hedge or an insurance as the dollar goes back to what its intrinsic value is zero. This grows. See, this gold coin right here, this is not worth, technically, it's not worth, it didn't go up in price or up in worth or become more scarce, where now it's worth almost $2,000 an ounce. No, I didn't. What happened is the dollar's buying power flatlined so that this continues to go up. Real money always wins. Gold and silver always wins for the last 5,000 years since the first, currency crash back in Athens. So if you go to Another resource, which is huge, there's 10 or 11 different videos in the series, even including different cryptocurrencies. It's called The Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney. Again, one of my favorite authors and trainers, but Mike Maloney goes into it. The hidden secrets of money. So you really understand what I'm talking about when we're talking about currency crashes and different challenges. My main thing, secure is number one. That's the first part. Second thing is being comfortable. Now, there's 3 different types of business or asset classes. But now I have to ask you, and it's hard to ask you because I'm speaking and I have to go into the Q&A, but what is an asset? What's the best way to really define what an asset is? As you increase your financial intelligence, you have to be able to read. All right, you have to be able to read the numbers is what I'm talking about. So what is an asset? What is a liability? Because there are basically 4 quadrants that we deal with. You have income, so whether that's from a job or businesses or what have you. Then you have expenses. Those are bills. Some of them you can pay off, whether it's like a home mortgage or a car or whatever. Then there's stuff that you don't pay off, like taxes and other stuff, grocery and stuff like that. All right, that's the ongoing expenses that you have. Then there are assets and there are liabilities. So when I ask people, I'm like, what's your biggest asset that you have? Most times they come out and say, hey, it's my house. My house is an asset because the banker tells you it's an asset. But in reality, most people's houses are liabilities. Let me help you define that. An asset is something that puts currency in your pocket. A liability is something that takes it from your pocket. So if you have a house that you're living in, you're not renting it out. You're paying taxes on it minimally, even if you own it fully. It's a liability. It's a good liability. You need that. You should have that, right? But now if you have a house, piece of real estate that you're renting out, whether it's to a business or an individual for residence or whatnot, it's putting money in your pocket. Whatever bills and things are paid or expenses on that particular property, for example, is paid off by those tenants. That's a liability, those expenses, but the money coming in from the tenant, and again, I'm using money and currency interchangeably, pays for that. So now you have some passive income coming in. Again, this is so important. There's 4 things. You have income, expenses, assets, liabilities. We must know what each of them are. We usually know what income is. Many people work a job, taxes get taken out, get that coming in. All right, you have a business, that coming in as well. But again, those are assets. Your assets provide income. Your income pays your expenses. So by that, you can determine your wealth. Are you wealthy for 2 weeks? Are you 2 years wealthy? Are you 20 years wealthy? And of course, things change and markets change and cycles change. But I want to challenge you in how you think. Because out of the comfortable plan, the next one is the rich plan. I'm not going to talk too much about that one, but I will talk about another asset class. You have businesses. Business is an asset class. That should put money in your pocket. Of course, it'll cost you. Yes, there's expenses, but there's a whole profit and loss statement sheets and stuff, and I don't want to get too technical, but they're businesses. But the more you learn about businesses, you recognize there's 3 different types. In general, of course, you got real estate. You have traditional business where or 3 different types of systems of business, I should say. That's franchises. Somebody else put a system together. You can buy that type of system, follow the things that they say, try to work it like clockwork. You can use your own intellectual property, use that information, you develop it, you build it, you create it. I'll give an example of that. Back in 2012, my first book was Muslims Parenting on Purpose. All right, my wives and I were the co-founders of Outstanding Muslim Parents. And at that time, I think I had 7 or 8 children at the time, and now again, it's 10 biological with my 2 bonus babies. But so I wrote a book. Used intellectual property, had an idea to go ahead and do something I was good at. And the reason I was good at it, people kept asking about it. They're like, yo, we see your children behave this fashion, they do this. We see, they get up, you're praying, you do all kinds of stuff that their children didn't do. And I was reluctant at first, but I had so many people asking. Then I had people's children that were totally abandoning the deen and all that. And I'm like, you know what? Let's get into it. So I had a framework that I use in my family that I learned from a lot of the business stuff and investment, a lot of the home business training and different things, right? So I wrote a book. And from the book, developed an entire course. Went to Egypt, Huda TV, and utilized that same framework to create a program. We did 30 episodes. So we created a 6 DVD program. And it's still up. You go to outstandingmuslimparents.com. That's the type of business that I love. That's a digital business, knowledge commerce business. That business will work for you no matter where you are in the world. So no geographic restrictions. But at the same exact time, it has money coming in. As currency coming in from all over the world. You're not limited to a brick and mortar place. So the margins are high. It takes, for this book, for example, it's about maybe $3 for me to get the book. The book sells for $17.95. So whether it's on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, your local bookstore, physical copies, you can get the book. but the spread is in there, and it also pushes to the website, which has other tools and resources for people to buy. Now, I'm not slide pitching you that, you know, if you have it, you want to check it out, that's fine. But I want to share with you, that's a business, that's an asset. Now, I also have a rental property, for example, and there's a tenant, and she pays on a monthly basis she pays through her app and stuff like that, and stuff is handled. But the thing is, the spread with the digital business is a lot larger, meaning the profit margin is a lot larger than over there, because there's repairs that need to be done, things that might go wrong, so on and so forth. She may not pay, and there might be court fees and costs. So you have to weigh which one, but those are two different types of assets or businesses. Now, there's a basic quadrant that Kiyosaki talks about. He talks about ESBI. E for employee, S for small business or specialists, the B is for big business owner, and the I is for investor. And these are the 4 ways to really get income. No one is necessarily better than the other. It just depends on what your personal goals are. For me, I didn't want to be poor. There's a penalty in poverty for being poor. All right. Now, poor, more as an acronym, stands for passing over opportunities repeatedly. Passing over opportunities repeatedly. Now, my great uncle, who inspired me, for example, he was illiterate till he was in his mid-30s. He came from down south with the Great Migration in the U.S. and came to the Midwest. And he started a watermelon business. He had a watermelon farm down south. He started a watermelon business in the Midwest. So he would go from May every year, around Memorial Day in the U.S., to Labor Day, which is September, every year, and literally make a multiple 6-figure cash income. Multiple 6 figures, and utilize that to buy real estate and everything. He couldn't read and write, he told me, until he was in his 30s. But he told me he can count cash. I was inspired by that, because I'm like, I didn't have any extra education. My parents didn't have money to send me to school. I wasn't too interested in it. It was really white supremacist based. They looked down on you, all kinds of stuff. But I knew that being an entrepreneur, you can hire the A students and the B students to run your company for you. They're looking for the security. See, in the US, we have something called security. If you're looking to get fed every single day, if you want to have room and board, not have to deal with it and have maximum security, there's a place that has maximum security. It's called prison. It's called prison. So many times you might see the lions and the tigers and the bears in cages or something in a circus. They have maximum security. You don't have to worry about where their food is coming from. You don't have to worry about being housed. None of that type of stuff. They're the resource. But then you have the ones in the wild who are free with no guarantees. See, being an entrepreneur or a business person may be lonely sometimes. You might not get the pats on your back because you started a business. But if you get a degree, oh, I have this extra debt, you might get the pat on your back. You might get the celebration, but then recognize it may not necessarily be worth much, especially during the pandemic. But you have some skills, whether you're an electrician or a mechanic or something like that. These can simply, easily turn to businesses. So I don't want to look down on any business, but where are you in that quadrant? Are you an employee? Are you a small business owner, a specialist like a lawyer or something like that? Or are you a big business owner? A big business owner means that you can take your business, run it, walk away from it, and it continue to grow while you're not there. So even though I'm not actively pursuing much stuff in outstanding Muslim parents, people are still going, they're still opting in, they're still part of the systems. All this stuff is still online and still making purchases without me having to be there doing anything new. One of my mentors told me, be temporarily motivated to be permanently lazy. Now, I don't subscribe to the philosophy, but this is what he was saying. If you make something, design it, do it very well, one time that can help a lot of people and get paid for it over and over and over. And the Prophet ﷺ lets us know that Allah Ta'ala loves the one who benefits. He said the best person is the one who benefits the most people. We have an opportunity in time in this age right now. I'm standing up in my living room, talking to the world on different platforms across the planet for very little cost. We have a very unique opportunity right now in the digital marketing space or internet marketing space to empower people, to equip people, as long as we're willing to invest in ourselves. I wasn't the public speaker guy. My mentor was like, look, Nazir, you need to get in front of the room. You have success in this business. Your team needs to see you there. I was nervous. I was like, man, I'm doing good right here. He kind of forced me to do it. I'm light skinned. I turned a little red and pink. It was wintertime. I had this, the melanin in my skin like it needed to at the time. I was nervous, but he saw more of me and he stretched me. And he told me it's okay to copycat as long as you copy the right cat. And I'm like, hold on a second. I'm Muslim. We in this deen. We should be leading this. We should be growing this. We should be examples. So I had to go and grow in order to take excuses away from other people in order to do that. So with that being said, I'm going to pause. I'll pause for a second. I know, what are we about? Okay, cool. Alhamdulillah, we're making some pretty good time. I'll pause in case you have any questions right here, and I need to turn something down in case it's affecting the audio.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters? If you have any questions, then please type them in the chat, inshallah.
Real quick, Rashida says, isn't even the gold and silver only worth what someone will pay for, in essence, like diamonds? Yes and no. Yes and no. Money has 6 specific qualities, and a couple of these are very important to understand. So back in the day, as in like 1,000 or so years ago, they would have scales, and you would actually have to measure different things out. Today, this is divisible and it's fungible. It'll last over a long period of time. So now 1 ounce here, 1 ounce of gold is another ounce of gold. You can weigh that, or give a half ounce or an ounce of silver, and now you can calculate stuff relatively quick. With diamonds, there's no standard weighting things with that. So you have to continue with that old scale of measuring and everything by weights, which again, kind of like a technological breakthrough with the way we can mint things right now. Now, of course, anything is worth what somebody else is willing to pay for it. But here's the thing, it's something about, Allah Ta'ala lets us know in Quran, it's something else. He says, you put the love of women, and he also talk in Ayah, he talks about you put the love of women and children and gold and silver and so on, and lists a few other things in men. He put these things in us, right? Well, there's something about this little flashy gold metal that we really like. Are we going to trade it for pieces of paper? Some people, yeah, of course. I mean, you'll buy it right now while that piece of paper has value, which is only backed by the full faith and credit of the people. But what's important is to know this, for the last 5,000 years, gold and silver has won against every single currency. So when you trade something, you want to look at the intrinsic value, whether it's a barrel of oil, whether it's a house. How many things of this can buy a house? That's the best way to measure something with value to a house versus like in dollars or anything else. So even using the dollars is pointless, because next year maybe $3,000, or some people predicting that by December of this year, gold should be 3,000 an ounce. Not that it went up 4,000, just the dollar continues to crash until it's going to eventually, this whole entire system that's pegged to that US dollar is going to crash. There's like no doubt about it, historically speaking. The further you can see into the past is also the further you can see into the future. This stuff is predictable and it goes on cycles, which is why I put some information out there. But indeed, so
I have a question
about the books. I can list the books and send a list. That's not a problem, inshallah.
We can put it in the Facebook group, inshallah,
listen,
and send it.
It's not about getting a bunch of them. I'll suggest where to start and where I have my children start, for example. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's the first one to get. If you really want to speed up your learning, you want to get the game. It's a board game called Cash Flow 101, the original one. They had a remake. I don't like the remake, but Cash Flow 101, you learn more playing that for 3 hours than in any college courses. That's a really, really good place to start there.
I have a question, brother.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to know a couple of things. One, and maybe you touched on this, the difference between assets and liabilities. Maybe you touched on it. If not, if you could just break that down. And also what about cryptocurrency? Is cryptocurrency basically going to be like the US dollar, or is it more like gold and silver? And what are your thoughts on it?
Okay, good stuff. I'm glad you asked. All right. The first question, assets and liabilities. The easiest way, again, to understand it, the asset puts currency or money in your pocket. A liability takes it out. So let's say I go get a brand new BMW, Benz, whatever type of car that you like. Is that an asset or liability? In general, I'm getting it. If I'm getting it for myself to drive, it's a liability, and you already lose thousands of dollars or pounds or whatever currency you're in as soon as you drive it off the lot. It's a liability. You're constantly putting into it. I don't care if it's a brand new Tesla. You might not be putting fuel into it, but you're recharging it. It's still a liability. It's taking from versus adding to. Now, how can that vehicle be an asset? It has to put cash in your pocket, right? So what if that's part of a fleet for your business, or ride sharing or something, where now it's paying for itself, or other people are paying to utilize that, or it's being used and you paint it all up to promote your business and stuff like that, and it brings in more business. Again, it comes to here. This is one of the things about taxes. See, an employee gets taxed first. So when you get a paycheck, all of the taxes and deductions are taken out first, and you're left with the rest. The government knows why. They know why. Because if you were required to give it all to them after you got your check, there'd be a big uproar. I mean, in the US right now, I mean, 20-30% of stuff's going right to tax, going to the government as though they were in on your job with you. It is what it is. It's obligatory here. All right, it's fardu ayn for those who have a job, if you will, right? But businesses, you get to deduct the expenses and everything that are related to that first and pay taxes on the profits, on what's left. All right, so now you can pay your children. The deduction in the US, for example, $12,000 a year per child. You can do all that and pay all of them tax-free and deduct that from your expenses. So the tax code is written for the wealthy. All right, it's written for the wealthy. It's very important to understand it. Now, again, assets put money in your pocket or put currency in your pocket. Liabilities take it from. So when you want to just go out to eat and do that, and again, it's not anything necessarily wrong with it. We just need, as adults, to be able to discern what's an asset and a liability so that we're seeing where our stuff is going and flowing to. Now, talking about crypto and whether or not it's going to become the new dollar or replace the system, I like crypto in general. I like the idea and everything behind it. While the dollar is softening right now, and while the world fiat currencies are softening, Bitcoin in particular is hardening. It's already just had a halving that just happened a few months ago. So it's becoming more and more scarce. There's only 21 million Bitcoins that are going to be in existence, and there's even less and less being mined right now. So that means it's getting harder. So what was that? Satoshi Naruto or something, Satoshi, whatever his name is, who started Bitcoin or whatever crew that was and everything behind it, already solved the system and really created in response to the 2007, 2008, 2009 crash that occurred. So being deregulated, decentralized, you can move things back and forth. But of course, there's a lot of regulation trying to do stuff, and US dollars coming in with it, trying to make it official and mandatory even for this next stimulus package, which is scary. But Forbes has pretty much reported that the government already has it in play where January 1st or November 30th, I think, that if you want to get this next stimulus, that you're going to have your wallet and stuff for the government you register with. It's crazy. But it's another asset class. Now, in the Hidden Secrets of Money, I think it's the maybe the 9th or the 10th episode. It's the longest episode. So it goes into blockchain, exactly what it is. But if we're looking at something to replace with transactions, there's something called hash graph. That's really on a different level technologically. It's a lot faster. It's more resilient. But if you're looking at cryptocurrencies and who has the market right now, it's Bitcoin. I think it's about 11,400 a coin right now as a store of value. To store some of your currency there as a protection for it, because it can move pretty much anywhere in the world. Now, whether or not you think it's halal or haram or whatever, you can go ahead and research and find out a little bit more from someone who's qualified in the area of economics, which is very important to understand. But then some of them are janky. You got some of the DeFi stuff that's coming out and just jumping up and down. And I don't want to get too technical with this stuff, but once you get your financial IQ up, go through the Hidden Secrets of Money, you talk about wealth cycles, really start to look at the basics and the foundation of it, because there are a lot of solutions that are in it, not all, but there are a lot of solutions that are in it. And then at the same time, with real money, with gold and silver, you ain't losing there. That's the safest bet, if you will, to protect or hinge or have an insurance on it. And though it's not technically an asset, it protects your stuff. So if the market crashes, you good. You have gold and silver. That's likely going to skyrocket based upon what history has shown us for the last several thousand years. Is it fast? Is it like real estate? We have currency coming in every single month, or some people borrow against that? No, it's not. It's not a cash flowing asset. Gold and silver just sits there. The crazy part is that 80% of the gold that has ever been harnessed, so far as we know, historically speaking, is still in existence. All right, gold is mainly used either for like money, decoration, and jewelry. That's it. Doesn't really have many viable uses outside of that. The challenge is silver, though. Silver right now is more rare than gold. And check this with the U.S. Geological Survey and everything, but silver is actually more rare than gold. Silver is an industrial metal. On every single one of these devices, my laptop right here, phone over here, this tablet, and then the camera, in every single one of these devices, including this microphone, there's some silver in it. So there's silver that we're never going to get back. And silver is an industrial metal. So in the wires outside, in our electricity, out in our vehicles, we have bits and silver. So that's a deteriorating metal. It's an industrial metal. So that's why a lot of my mentors say, we buy 500 ounces of silver for 1 ounce of gold that we get. Now, when you travel internationally, it's amazing because you have to declare when you leave in the US or coming in, whether or not you're leaving with over $10,000 in US currency. So 10,000 cash. But if you have 5 of these, all right, 5 of these, 5 ounces that you can have in your pocket, like regular pocket change, anywhere in the world, you can convert that to its equivalent in whatever currency that you're in. That's money. That's very important. Similarly, that's how crypto can operate, but you still have to deal right now, at least with third-party banks, to convert that into something that can be functionally used, unless you're dealing with different retailers and individuals that can take that. So I hope they help with that part, inshallah, sis. I'm gonna break right now because there's gonna be questions and answers, and I also want to get to the sisters portion as well. Unless you have any other particular questions right now, I want to be respectful of time.
There's a question in the chat. There's a question in the chat, in other words, you can see it, from Hadija.
Oh, in the chat, you said, I'm sorry, I was looking in the Q&A part. Give me a second.
I can read it.
Please.
With the technological advances we're seeing, will the concept of a 9-to-5 job eventually become a thing of the past? Do you have any tips or strategies to prepare for the technological advances and the changes that will eventually come with it?
Alhamdulillah, that's a very good
session. Is another hour-long session, right? That's a
very good question. Now, there's 2 books I'll suggest for this. It's funny because I'm like giving prescriptions of books out when I mentor people. But one is Who Moved My Cheese? You can the kids love that book too. You can read that in basically 45 minutes. It's called Who Moved My Cheese? Okay, and it's really talking about adaptability into markets. That's what you're asking right now. And talking about 9-to-5 job. I think right now the pandemic has already let us know. The second book is The 4-Hour Work Week, reading on lifestyle design. I think, who was it? I don't know if it was Apple or Google or one of the big tech companies just decided that their employees can work from home forever. They're not going to necessarily have to come back. So commercial real estate may be suffering in different parts, because even the mall, like the Mall of America right now, is back a few $1 billion on their monthly lease. They can't pay their lease. The Mall of America, the biggest mall in the United States in Minnesota, can't pay their lease. It's commercial. They're a few $1 billion in the hole right now as we speak. Crazy. But whether or not you're gonna have to go back, you have to ask yourself, what is the world looking like? Are you receiving more Amazon packages? Do you get packages like every day from Amazon, or check on your stuff? You'd rather do that than go into a store? You know what I'm saying? Are we streaming now more to watch something than necessarily going to movies? Again, pre-COVID, because not many people are going anywhere to movies or gathering places like that. But what are the suggestions? Here's my suggestion. This is what we've done. We did it a little before. I got online in 2010. I was doing something called Muslim Money Man. I was talking about gold and silver. We were talking about investing in real estate. We were talking about network marketing and other opportunities for people to have an alternative to their 9-to-5 jobs. All right. What we do is enterprising. That's a different level of business. All right. So what I'm doing, as an example, you see this here. So we have outstanding Muslim parents. I talked about the courses there. I have outstanding personal relationships. With outstanding personal relationships, we teach about relationships. We talk about marriage. We talk about parenting. We talk about polygyny. We talk about a bunch of different things my wives and I, right? So we teach and we train on this. We have online courses. So one of our courses is the Relationship Mastery Inner Circle. It's $77 a month. And again, I'm not selling it, but I'm giving you an example. It's $77 a month. It empowers people. They have workbooks, they have downloads, they have audios, they have direct access to us. It's a very, very detailed, deep thing to go into relationships. And then we have hundreds of hours of free stuff too. So our goal is to help over 1,000 families on a monthly basis benefit from it, go deep and change themselves into more happy, fulfilled human beings. Because the more happy and fulfilled they are, the families are better. The first thing that we know from creation was a man and a woman. That was the first family. Not the kids, not the parents. Your first thing was a man and a woman. Okay? So we're teaching, we're going on, now we're going from our experiences, from what we learned, from what we trained, the tens of thousands that we spent investing in ourselves, going to different seminars, getting coaching and all of these things to invest in me, because the real true asset is yourself. Allah Ta'ala has given you all of these different things out there. We have to utilize it and grow. So if I'm the asset, basically what's happening on my job is I'm being rented. My job is renting me. But should something happen to me, I'm easily replaceable by the next person. So why am I going to sell myself retail for that in hopes that I'm a part of somebody else's plan? My mentor said a long time ago, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And we know that. That's a universal maxim. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So what we did is we dove into the digital online market, because we did it. We were getting asked questions about our relationship with polygyny and how we were able to really get over these humps and struggles and challenges. And we're already entrepreneurs. So we're like, you know what, let's go ahead and do this, help people, put a system together so they could benefit. So my wives last week, for example, they did a 5-day successful marriage challenge. So they did that. It was $25. You know what I'm saying? They had a few dozen people register. They had all kinds of stuff. They helped them and they got paid from it. Then they have a course called True Queens that deals with women and etiquettes and how to treat your husband and how to get closer and all of this stuff, and also polygyny. So that's another course. I'm doing a challenge next week. I haven't even announced it to anybody, so I'm announcing you first. I'm doing a course next week. It's the 5-day challenge, successful marriage challenge from a king's perspective. All right, so now it's the male perspective that I'm going to be going over, and I have a course called Kings and Kingdoms. So that's a course. It's flat. It's a 5-week course and everything else. But what I'm doing is taking some information and knowledge that I've learned and empowering and equipping other people with it and helping them along the way. Now, what I mean by enterprising is that's just outstanding personal relationships. This is outstanding one's appearance. Most of that is digital. We're finishing up a book called Let's Talk Polygyny from each of our perspectives. There isn't one out there yet. There's a great Polygyny in Islam book by Bilal Phillips and our sister Jamila Jones that people are scared of when they see it. And if you had this in your house, you might have had arguments about it, or the husband might put on the bookshelf backwards so it looks like that. This book is only 93 pages. It has a wealth of information. Our book is looking to be almost 300. And it's going to empower people, right? So what I'm saying, if you're working 9 to 5 on your job, be willing to work 5 to 9 on your fortune, on your passion, on helping other people. Again, Allah Ta'ala said, the Prophet let us know the people the most loved by Allah, the ones who are the most beneficial to others. Look at how Sister Naima and the whole team put this whole Black Muslim family festival together, this Black Muslim Renaissance across the planet. How much barakah, how much this is weighing on your scales. So you have a story in you, you have a challenge you've overcome, or let's say you don't even. Let's say you don't. There's 3 types of experts. Let me find this book that I first talked about. Napoleon Hill wrote this book, Think and Grow Rich, bestseller, over 80 years ago now, almost 100, like 90 years ago, right? He didn't do anything special. He interviewed the 500 wealthiest people on the planet, put it in a book because people want to learn it, right? Because you interview people. You see podcasts where people are getting interviewed, and you see course, all of these things. Is there something? Is there an area, a niche, some people that you like to help that there's, they can really use help with? If so, I would suggest, again, finding out how to, and I help people do that, but it's important. The more you increase your financial IQ, the more you can fill the need in the marketplace. So if you're looking for the rich plan, it's filling the need better than anyone else. So what I'm doing when I say enterprising is we have these 2 companies. Then we have the outstanding brand, but I'm also have my daughter who does makeup and everything. Then another daughter, she's an artist and graphic designer, and she loves to do digital and animate art. Then I have all of these different things. And I have a new son-in-law who wants to run his own security firm. I have a daughter that wants to teach Arabic. She's teaching right now on Sunday in the weekend school. So I have all these different things, but they can be under this umbrella. Because PepsiCo, for example, owns Taco Bell, that owns Pizza Hut, that has Kentucky Fried Chicken, that has manufacturing companies that make straws, and the straws provide each one of these other ones, but they also own Hanes and Ballpark, and they have Michael Jordan selling underwear and also selling hot dogs. They have all of this stuff under their umbrella company. So what I want to do is not only think about the 3 things that are left behind. The Prophet said there's 3 things that will follow you after your death. Because your book is closed except for these 3, right? A righteous child that prays for you, righteous children that pray for you, money that you spent fi sabilillah that continues to benefit people, beneficial knowledge that you leave. So when I go, because I know I'm going to die soon, no matter how long that may be, that mortality motivation makes me want to leave something that benefits people, whether it's dealing with relationships, whether it's dealing with anything I can help my children do. I want to help them be righteous because I'm greedy. I want to be selfish, and I encourage you to be too. Be greedy enough to raise children to be righteous that will pray for you. Be greedy because you want those dua. Be greedy to give money, to donate to good causes, whether it's to massages, to wells, to whatever good cause there may be, to leave an organization, to leave something that benefits people when you go. Be greedy enough to leave beneficial knowledge, whether it's recorded, or it's on YouTube, or it's on Facebook, or it's on your website, or it's in your books. Be greedy to get those barakah. Be greedy for that. And that's what I want to do for our family. Since we just came to Islam and my children are first generation Muslims, I want them to be Muslim to Yawm al-Qiyamah. I know not all of them will be. If Prophet Ibrahim, if his children were not all on that, I can't expect anything more. But I want to do my best there. So that's some of my reason why my goal. So I know you asked a 9 to 5 question and you thought you were long-winded. No, you weren't. That was an excellent question. And may Allah increase you for that. And prayerfully, you benefited from it. And I'm going to fall back because I know it's that time, sis, to change unless you have another question or something.
Jazakallah khairan, brother. You gave us a ton of food for thought there, mashallah. And yeah, I think definitely people will be listening back to this session, going over their notes again. Guys, just express your appreciation in the chat, inshallah, unless you're right now just a bit stunned, which is also acceptable. It's an acceptable response, mashallah. But no, you really gave us a whole lot. How can people reach out to get your help, to get your guidance, to learn more from you?
I'm at Outstanding Personal Relationships.
Okay.
So Facebook, YouTube, Outstanding Personal Relationships. IG is Outstanding Relationships, but our website is the best way. Outstanding Personal Relationships, of course, same branding.com. So outstandingpersonalrelationships.com. I'm going to stay here too, because I'm going to be taking notes, even though I'll, hide myself. But I'll be here for any questions as well toward the end, inshallah ta'ala.
Jazakallah khair. Sis says I may have to watch it another 3, 4, maybe 5 times to try and take it all in properly. It was a lot, but it's good. Like, this is stuff that, subhanallah, brother, I was on the session today where we were talking about health and prophetic remedies, and just talking about the amana of health, but also the investment in our health, especially in these times, where there's all this crazy stuff happening, and we are not being reminded of how powerful we actually are, in order to actually make ourselves healthy and well and keep our children healthy and well. And I know you love this stuff. I can see Brother Nazir is like, yes, this is the knowledge that we need in the community, mashallah. This is real empowering knowledge, because when you know the facts and there's a roadmap, you've got no excuses for sitting still and feeling like you're a victim or, just playing that game. Inshallah, we all level up together, bismillah.
Ameen.
Jazakallah khairan, brother. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Shukran. We will put it over to Sister Maryam now, just to talk about those revenue streams, which I think is really, really important in light of the fact that you asked this question about the 9-to-5 job. And I know Sister Maryam was telling us earlier that she herself has a 9-to-5 job, but she also has a rather interesting number of revenue streams. So Sister Maryam, when you are ready, if you want to go on the video, and then we can talk about this revenue stream thing that is just so exciting and great. Go ahead, sis.
Okay, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much, Brother Nazir. I learned a lot. I was taking notes. Thank God I was on mute. MashaAllah. All right. Good question. Well, I'll tell a brief story about myself again, for those who weren't in the first session with me earlier today. So I've gone through hell. And when I say hell, okay, so at some point in my life, I had a new baby, was in so much debt. I calculated at some point the amount of debt I had was almost 5 times more than my annual income. Okay, imagine with a new baby, postpartum, many women here will relate with me, and in huge debt. To cap that, as though that was not enough, alhamdulillah though for the experience, I got my salary cut and my bonus cut. So it was a very painful experience. Depression here and there. Then, I sought help, and alhamdulillah, eventually something changed in my life. But first, I think the focus that I'm, taking on this session is how can we get more revenue streams for working people and for housewives? That's what Sister Naima said I should speak about. And I'm delighted to speak about it, alhamdulillah. Okay, so why is income important to you? And my sessions are normally chit chat and talk and a lot of facial expressions, because I'm goofy like that. So please feel free to chat. In fact, you should chat. So because I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. So why is income important to you? Why do you think you personally need more income? Or if you're happy with the income that you have, well then, I think it's time for you to say bye and go to Cancun in your island, wherever it is. Okay, so Maryam says freedom. I like that. Some of you who were in the sent in the session earlier know mine already, but some of you may not. Rashida says security for my family. Okay. Income means different things to different people, but generally speaking, income is one piece of the 3 cogs in a wheel, like I explained earlier. And I'm going to give a brief thing. So the three key things for sustainable wealth, multi-generational wealth, for you to achieve security, opportunity to build, freedom, whatever your goal is. For me, it's just that I love to chill. Okay, I just love to chill. So for you to attain that, there are three cogs in the wheel, and they work hand in hand. You can't separate the one from the other. This is my attempt at a cog. It's income, it's savings, and investments. You find people take on a lot of, whether save so much and then they forget the other aspect, investing. So then the money then loses value. I have an interesting video that I shared earlier. I could actually drop it again on the Facebook group for people who love the video. It's just a depiction of how you can save to the point where inflation hits and then there's nothing. Okay, it's quite sad. But these three things are very important. But I'm going to focus on income right now today because I think it's important. And somehow it ties in with all the three other elements, okay? So now I want you, I think I have more ladies than gentlemen here, but it doesn't matter. So ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to think of your nicest pair of shoes right now. Like right now, just think of your favorite pair of shoes, whatever they are. If you have them close to you, you can pick them up. I don't have mine, but just if you have them close to you, pick them up. If not, just think of them. Okay. Now I want you to imagine right now that you're holding your nicest pair of shoes and it's in your hand right now. And you're like, whoo, what a good buy. I hope it's not tattered and dead because I destroy my shoes when I like them. So pick that pair of shoes, one pair, just one foot, not the whole pair. And I want you to take that foot and put it on your head. Yes, I want you to just move your hands and pretend it's on your head. Is it there? If it's there, just say yes on the chat box, okay? Okay, Naima's shoe is on her head already. Tanika's is on her head. Mine is on my head too. Marianne's own is on her head as well. Okay? All right. Amina's shoe is on her head. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you a question. With your shoe still on your head, I'm going to ask you a question. Of what use is this shoe on your head? Question. Would it serve the same purpose as it was designed? Naima says none. Hadija says yes. Ooh, Hadija, I would love to know what use your shoe has. Tanika says no. Mariam says no. So what if I told you that wealth is the shoe on your foot? So wealth, in other words, is meant to not be put on our heads, but it's supposed to be the shoe on our foot in order to what? Be used. Sometimes, generally, sometimes in life, we take, and this can be literally or metaphorical, I don't know what the English would call it, but you can take it just on face value. If you put a pair of shoes on your head, no use. Sometimes we put wealth on our heads, we worry, we sleep less, we don't take action, we are guilt-tripped by it. But if you realize the main purpose, and I love what Brother Nazir said about money. He said money is, what did he call it again? Neutral, right? So, Tanika says, I'm inspiring a closer cloud. Okay, so wealth is the shoe on your foot. It's meant to be used. I believe that wealth can be used in three ways. You can either use it for chilling, like I love, charity, like I love, and then to build more wealth, to just do things for the community and do things that you love. So for me, that's the whole point. All right, now, there are certain things that I also want us to keep in mind here. Even though we say wealth is the shoe on our foot, it's useless on our heads, and then it's a bloody shoe. Okay, it's not that as we take it, and also it's not something to ignore. Okay, at all, for us to achieve what we want. But I want to tell you something again, building upon what Brother Nazir said. Exactly, Sister Naima, just something that has a use, yes. So there are, I would say, three questions that most wealthy people would ask themselves. We find it in common generally, but in different ways, okay? The question, and that's what differentiates people who have a lot of wealth and people who do not, or people who struggle, is number one, the question they ask is, how can I make this happen? what problem can I solve? How can I solve it? And when can I start? It usually starts around this, and I'm building up to income, as you noticed. So when you start to ask these questions, how can I make this happen? Okay, the questions are not directly in order, but how can I make this happen? How can I solve a problem? What problem can I solve? And when do I start? Okay, when you start to ask these questions, suddenly two things begin to emerge. And this leads us to, how do you get more income, more revenue streams, right? I would suggest you focus on two things, and Brother Nadir has done a fantastic job on that segment. So I'm just gonna give you two buckets, two things: active income and passive income. Active income is generally income that, you and I do the daily grind and stuff. I see people on the tubes. If you're in New York or wherever you are, whatever part of the world, you're either commuting, you're wherever, we're doing something. You're actively going to sit down at your desk and deliver. And at the end of the month or week or however you get paid, you get paid. That's active income. It could be your business that you are running. It could be a magazine like Sister Naima. It could be anything, all right? Active income is generally something that you put in physical effort into. Passive income, on the other hand, is something that I absolutely love because, again, I love to chill. So it's something that you can earn while sleeping, all right? So you are truly free. For somebody, I think someone mentioned freedom here, and I completely agree, as a reason for her wanting more income. We would be totally free in whatever our dreams are, whatever we want, or what people bandy around these days, financial freedom. We would only achieve that freedom if our passive income surpasses our living expenses. Does that sound like utopia? Like, just the thought of that makes me want to just imagine my life in the Maldives, for a month, just not having to do anything. And yeah, if I choose to, I could just, video chat my relatives and be like, hey guys, how are you? Oh, there goes a seagull. That's my kind of chilling. Okay. So you're truly free when, and I want you to repeat after me and tap on the chat box, truly free when your passive income is more than your living expenses. Okay. So type, just to be sure that I'm talking to people, because sometimes it can be like I'm talking to my laptop here. Okay, so chat with me. Oh, thank you, Naima. Oh, you're always the fastest. You're a writer, so your fingers are used to the keyboard. Okay, so this is what being truly free is. Thank you, everyone. Okay, now how do you do this? So I'm taking the perspective of being whether you're a housewife or you're working a 9-to-5 job. I do not think that there is, I believe strongly that Allah has given us equal opportunity, truly, in my heart, and I'm sure you all agree. So whatever your circumstance is, there is something special that you can do. So if you're looking for active income and you're, for example, a stay-at-home mom, right? It is an amazing opportunity to monetize your talent. There is something called Mrs. Watanabe. Let me just type it here. I think Mrs. Watanabe. How many of you have heard of this? I think that's what it's called. I hope that's what it's called. How many of you have heard of what I just typed in? What does it mean? No Googling. No Googling. I can see you. Okay. How many of you have heard of this called Mrs. Watanabe? If you have heard, okay, not heard of her, okay. Anyone? Nope, okay. All right. Okay, brilliant. Okay, Amina says no, Tanika says no, Maysara says no, Maryam says never heard of it. Okay, Mrs. Watanabe apparently is just a name that describes the typical Japanese housewife and a female investor. You won't believe it. So there are a group of housewives apparently in Japan who, I don't know who started it, but they decided to just dabble into investing. So they have computer, good internet, and then they just decided to start investing. And they made, and I think they still make, fantastic investors. They just know how to trade. They've mastered the art of trading, that's buying stocks, selling stocks, buying whatever, selling whatever, by sitting at home. Now, there was one lady, I'd like to believe, that decided, to take action. Why can't that be you? So there's so much opportunity, all right? Mrs. Watanabe is one. And by the way, Mrs. Watanabe is figurative. It's like lots and lots of women in Japan. So you may explore, I would say you may explore the online world. If you are not used to investing, you can monetize your skills. And that takes me to, I'll talk a little more about that shortly. So that's for active income. For passive income, you can invest, if you're familiar with the terrain of investing, stocks, sukuk, mutual funds, etc., etc. If they sound too complex, don't worry about it. You can Google them, go online, start your learning journey about investing. I would definitely recommend that. Get a financial advisor. We have at Wealth Paradigm, we have resources that can help you. Just knowledge, on investing, and etc., etc. You can go onto our website. Thank you. Okay, good. Our website is wealthparadigm.org. I'll post it a little later. And now, I want to tell you a story about a man who was so sad about his finances, kind of like me, hated his job. Then he asked himself, what am I really good at? So he decided, I think he can't remember whether he was a realtor or something like that. So he put together a 1 to 2 page document and put it online and sold it for $1. He was too scared to price it too high, was very insecure, as we normally are typically as creators when we start things. We're nervous how people will accept them, right? So the first night passed and nobody bought, okay? Second night passed, he couldn't sleep. One person bought. Wow. Oh, wow. So there's actually one human being. Third night, fourth night, a few nights passed, nobody bought again. And then he's like, oh man, with all my efforts. But within a few months, guys, he had made his monthly paycheck. Okay. So he had made, let's say he earned $1,000, for example, he had made $1,000 from that, just selling that thing. Someone told another person, and then he used, promotions and all of that. It is possible. Okay. And now the rest is history. So from that $1, he got more confident, did more, for priced higher, blah, 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 blah. The rest is history. Okay. Now I would want to say something. The key to passive income is to diversify. Now, even if you're super talented and, for example, you have this one very, thriving business. Okay, so I'll just send you the link to our website here. And I must say that our website is being optimized, so some things may not work, but just in case, okay? That's it. So diversify. It's not advisable to rely on an online business or any sort of business or anything, right? Remember what I told you earlier, if you were there. Warren Buffett was quoted to have said that if you are relying on your salary for income, as the sole source of your income, you are one step away from poverty. Whether he said it or not, I don't care. The message is true. All right, so diversify in the sense that never put all your eggs in one basket. And ladies, we know that, right? Imagine you go shopping and you bring eggs, and then you mix the eggs with the clothes and the shoes and the blah, 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 blah. You spend a lot of time cleaning, and you don't get to eat any eggs. All right, so how can you diversify? Dabble yourself, I would say, in the investment space. I started investing in stocks with a lot less than $100. And when I say $100, it's maybe about 50-ish now, because, I just thought, okay, if I put this here, it might not come back. So start with something you're comfortable disappearing, for example, just as a tester. And I'm saying this because it builds your confidence investing. Investing is a loser's game. That's what experts, I think it's Warren Buffett that said that too. I quote him a lot because I like him. It's a loser's game. But many people who are less wealthy or who don't understand how wealth works, they play the game of investing and money making in order not to lose. And what you focus on, if you focus on not losing, you just tend to lose. I'm sure people who work with people can understand me when in your mindset, and Brother Nazir mentioned think and grow rich. It's how you think that almost always determines your outcome. Okay, many of us are Muslims. I remember in this part of the world when you say stuff like that, people are like, are you saying that you are Allah? No, I don't think so. But Allah has given us the power to think. And I love this I think it's Hadith Qudsi, that Allah said that I am as my servant thinks of me. So if you decide on your own to not give Allah a razaq, or to not think that anything is possible with Allah, or to not think that, or to just limit your thoughts about what Allah can do, it's up to you. It happens. So that to me reinforces that thoughts actually make or mar your journey, especially around wealth. Okie dokie. All right. So let's see then. Now, what if this doesn't work? If you're asking yourself, what if, okay, I start a business and then it fails? It could happen. What if I start this and people don't like it? What if I do this? What if that? What if this? What if that? Remember, everybody was once a novice. Craft your learnings in gold. Dust yourself up. If I tell you the number of money, the number of deals I failed at, the amount of money I've lost, it is not so pleasant. But alhamdulillah, the learnings, I can share the stories with you and I can tell you what not to do because I gave myself permission to fail. Give yourself permission to fail. Wealth creation, wealth journey is not an easy one. But again, the simple process of saying, oh, really? Oh, I failed. Oh, this time I didn't make money. Oh, that's fine. Give yourself time to cry. If you're like me, give myself time to cry in the room or stuff like that, or rant to my husband or my sister or whomsoever. Give yourself that time, then move on. Okay? All right. So right now, what I want you to do, everyone, is I want you to take your notebook. If you want to chat with me here, you can do that. Tell me one thing you're going to do today. And I want you to chat actually. One thing you are going to do today, this night, inshallah, that will take you closer to your dreams. One thing you're going to do today. You can use code language if you don't want me to understand, if you don't want the whole world to know. Okay. Or you can write it in your own book. One thing you're going to do today in order for you to get closer to your dream life or your dream wealth. Okay. One thing you're going to do today, this night. Hadija says she'll decide to do it. Okay. Whatever that means to you, I hope that on your own notebook, you're going to make it more concrete. You're going to say, I will, inshallah, this night, start, for example, if you want to start a business, I will start purchasing the domain or the website or whatever it is. Thank you. F. Campbell says, I will look into a second income stream. That's good. But I would love if you put something small. So you can say, I would start looking up a domain, for example, or yes, a second income stream. And then you can specify it for yourself. Or you can then, better still, start using the 4 questions that I mentioned earlier. All right. That is how the wealthy think, and that is how they make things happen. How can I make this happen? How can I solve a problem? What problem do I want to solve? And when can I start? Okay, brilliant. Tanika says, think about a problem I can solve, start reading up an essay. The simple truth is, inshallah Rabbil Alameen, if you solve a problem, people will pay you. So that is it's a no-brainer, inshallah, all right? Okay, so at this point, I think I'll wrap up with what I started with, basically about myself. I picked up myself, stopped taking, victim pills, not really real pills, but got myself out with help from that zone of being a victim. And I actually took action, decided, what am I good at? I love to talk. I'm like a parrot. That was the first thing I decided to do. So I decided to give free talks about the one thing that I know very, very well, which is money, investing. I've been investing for nearly a decade now on behalf of myself and an institution and so many other, people. So I get access to so much information, but I realized it's so limited to the Muslim world. Then I said, I'll start to speak about it. And I did again and again and again. And that's it. And today, alhamdulillah, I have a number of income streams, about 9 and counting. I'm not where I want to be yet, bi'idhnillah, but it's a journey. And I permit myself to make the mistakes, to take the risks. And I want you to decide to permit yourself to do the same today. Barakallah fikum. Thank you so much. Let me see if you have any questions. Hadija says, I'll think carefully about my spending. Ask myself the liability question regarding purchases. Way to go, Hadija. I'm proud of you. Any questions that you would like me to take before I hand over to Sister Naima? Robert?
Yes, I'd like to just jump in and just say to everybody, inshallah, that, remember that, and just as we covered in the first session on health, a lot of the ways in which we've been encouraged to live are not in our best interests. So this is the same with spending. Would you say, Maryam, would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree. I agree. But do you, I don't think spending is the problem. Now, I'm a bit of a rebel here, simply
Okay,
because I love to chill. But I always encourage people to increase your income. Why stay, huddled? I think that's even a worse belief, in my opinion. Just huddled, we need to manage scarcity.
Oh, no.
Whereas Allah's universe reminds us every single day. So we've been here about an hour now or more. Can you count the amount of oxygen you've taken in, Sister Naima?
No, I
We
can't.
can't. Literally, the blood, our heart has been beating, so Allah reminds us constantly within ourselves, the trees, the skies, ocean, it's endless, right? It's so massive. Allah reminds us every single time of his abundance. Now, I'm not saying be wasteful, but I do believe that staying in such a cocoon of not spending is terrible. What I do believe is, you want to spend? Okay, no problem. Raise your income. When you get to a certain level, okay, raise your income. That's my view on spending, truly.
Yeah, I think, I hear what you're saying. Definitely scarcity mentality is a big problem for many of us because of our own financial blueprint, what we learned from our parents, etc. I think what's interesting, and I'm not sure whether this is a case for, and Brother Nazir, if you're around, we can round up with maybe a three-way conversation. But particularly in the West, the way that Black communities spend is problematic. Brother Nazir, would you agree with that? Do you want to just go into that for a bit? Because mashallah, what I love about the festival is that we literally have it's a global perspective. So what is an issue for Africans on the continent might not be an issue for Black Muslims in the West, and then also for Black people in the West, they have particular issues that maybe Africans on the continent, they're like, what's the big deal? Brother Nazir, what can you say about Black people spending in the West?
I think it's working out extremely well for those who enslaved us, okay? And what I mean is that last year, it said that Black people in the US had collectively 1.3 trillion in spending power. 1.3 trillion.
Wow.
All right, so that's ridiculously crazy. That would be like, I think, the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world if it was in itself. The challenge is that we own less property than we did 100 years ago, pre-civil rights.
Oh, come on now.
So the spending is working out well for the same ones who enslaved us physically, where mentally that money is going, that currency is going right back to them. So we are a great asset for them in particular. So without that financial education and learning how to redirect it to your own resources, we lose. For example, at my family meeting a couple of days ago, my family has a meeting every Thursday, and we deal with skills and financial education and a lot of different things for the first half of it. Is my camera going like in and out, trying to catch me?
Yeah,
yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
so sorry about that. I might have to switch it. This is crazy. Anyway, we were at a family meeting, and one of the assignments was to really talk about Marcus Garvey and what he did. And people know the name Marcus Garvey, but they don't know much other than just the name. But you have back in 1919, this guy going from 3 years on the street corner with a bullhorn, talking his message about Black economics and independence, and a lot of other stuff that is not necessarily Islamic, but the foundations of the economic part were to do for yourself, do for your own. So what he did 101 years ago that no Black man has been able to accomplish since, or at least they didn't desire to, is he had ocean liners, like what's called Black Star Lines. They were going back and forth, doing commerce and trade with different parts of Africa, also in Jamaica and Caribbean. Also, he had some ocean liner ships, right? Like the Titanic, doing business and cargo, but also for people wanting to move back. But he also had manufacturing facilities, like we don't have in the Muslim world. We don't manufacture anything. They were making black dials. They had chains of hotels. There were auditoriums where you get information out, commercial real estate buildings, residential buildings, restaurants, all of this stuff for independence, which made him public enemy number one. So he used other Black leaders who were more fair skinned like myself to call him a Black gorilla, monkey, play on the colorism and everything from there, and help bring him down and eventually get him locked up and so on and so forth for tax charges, which is one of the most ridiculous things out there. But 101 years ago that happened. Now imagine that collective experience. Now, mind you, Marcus Garvey Also, Malcolm X's father was a Garveyite. He followed that philosophy, even like Elijah Muhammad, a lot of stuff really came through. And not since the Nation of Islam who followed that philosophy of economics and collective group economics have black people ever had more property and businesses than during that time. And we're here 1.3 trillion last year. So yeah, it's absolutely in the spending, because we would like to look rich than actually grow and be that way. When you recognize the average millionaire here has a Toyota Corolla, they're not rolling around in Bentleys and all the rest of the type of stuff. It's not about looking rich. You know what I'm saying? It's actually about being and having it for generations. When you look at the Zuckerbergs, like, we know his whole entire wardrobe by one picture. You look at Bill Gates, you look at Warren Buffett and Omar, where he stays and everything, really, really simple lives, you know, but the facade of what it means, like Kiyosaki talks about expanding your means, but also watching them. Because even though he said, don't put all your eggs in one basket, he said, if you do put all your eggs in one basket, you need to watch it very closely, you know, because that's a fool is willing to overlook what a wise man is willing to research. So again, that 1.3 trillion in the US, the lifestyle and quality of life will change overnight should those funds be redirected how they should be redirected. There's a show on Netflix with Killer Mike, I forget the name of it, some trigger warning. There's like 6 or 7 episodes where he tried to live in Atlanta, which is the blackest city in the country, if you will. He tried to live for 24 hours doing nothing but buying black, talking on the phone black, traveling black, staying at a hotel black. He couldn't do it. It's really disappointing.
In Atlanta, he could not do that.
Couldn't do it. In Atlanta. Wow. He had to sleep outside. He had to sleep outside on the park bench because there was no black owned hotels or even a motel he can go to. Not talking about Airbnbs, but yeah, it's a very saddening, but it's a bittersweet thing to see, because you see the opportunity that's out there should people decide to and begin to wake up, as they're really doing now this year under Trump, nevertheless.
Yeah, subhanAllah, crazy stuff. Guys, just give us any last questions for our panelists in the chat. Anything else that you'd like to say? I think that this is, again, one of those conversations that sounds just like a conversation starter. It's not even like, okay, we've covered this, now we can move on. It's like, I want our people within the community who have the financial acumen to help me write a book for our kids. Help me to write a book for our young people. Help me to put together a course, for our young people, so they can have a head start and have the right attitude towards wealth, right attitude towards money, right attitude towards what is possible for them. We've got a question here. Should you borrow to invest? Oh, that's an interesting one. Okay, what do you guys say? Should you borrow to invest?
I would not lend you anything until you could tell me and convince me that your plan is right and you have some type of some skin in the game. I learned it the hard way. You know what I'm saying? You love people, you want to help them and all that, and they say they're going to do something, but what is it that you've done? My mentor told me this thing. I used to call him all the time, one of my mentors, right? I used to call him, hey, how you do this? Or what about this? And what about that? He said, listen, Nazir, this camera driving me crazy. I guess it's really going right now, right? Anyway, he said, listen, Nazir, this is what I want you to do. He said, if you're serious and you're a leader and you really, he said, when you ask me, can you hear me? Am I good? Okay. He said, when you ask a question, he said, when you call somebody right away, what's that saying is that you're lazy. So I'm going to ask you, what books did you read? What research did you do? What reports did you look at? Give me all the most recent stuff that you looked at, the audios you listened to try to find the answer before you come to me, because I want to know that you're serious. Because if you want to be a millionaire, for example, I mean, it really doesn't happen for those who are just interested. You can be interested in a lot of different things. We have a passing interest, but there's a big difference between those who are curious and those who are serious.
Yeah. Oh. Guys, I hope you're taking note of these things. There's a difference between those who are.
If you want me to loan you something or invest in you, that's no problem. I can invest what I'm willing to lose, but I need to know that you're serious and not just curious, and that has to be demonstrable. So if you can demonstrate that, but you have that idea, you have that ambition, we can get it done. If not, it's unlikely. You still need to grow. You know what I'm saying? They say, you can give and you can ask to receive and all that kind of stuff, but you have to do something. And I came again from, people believed in me more than I believed in myself, but I was willing to listen and put into action what they said. So you have to study, practice, teach. And sometimes losing, being unsuccessful at something is better than winning because the lessons that you get from that losing. Yeah. But the great part is, failure is, it's a verb, not a noun. So you can get up and keep pushing, keep moving forward, inshallah.
MashaAllah, I like that. Go ahead, Maryam, what do you think? Borrow to invest?
I think, yeah, so my question that I would ask Sister Rahima is, what is why do you want to borrow, for example, right? And my understanding of your question is, should I borrow, for example, to invest in stocks? Should I borrow to invest in something? Why do you want to borrow? My view is, whatever it is that you would like to borrow, you can make. And the use of leverage is man's way of not necessarily taking responsibility for the investment itself, but let me defer it to another person. And debt in and of itself is a very difficult thing. Remember the hadith and all of that about Rasul not, saying prayers, janazah prayers for people who are still in debt. So my question is, why do you want to use someone else's money? What if you lose? What if you don't return? Debt has a terrible thing where if you don't make it back, then it weighs you down. Whereas if you get your own income from, mashallah, halal sources, you can use it. You lose it, you cry, you dust yourself up and you move on. So that's my view. I feel like anything that can be borrowed can be made. So don't borrow, make it and then invest it.
Yeah, and that thing of, you said, owing somebody else money and that you've lost as well. You can't even give it back to them. Okay, just to round off, we have in the West, and Brother Nazir, maybe you can confirm whether this is the case in the States, but there's always been an issue in our community, specifically the Black Muslim community, of poor standards and poor follow through, where brothers are like on a hype and they're like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Yeah, inshallah, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And like, not a nagwan, like nothing comes from it. Who is from the UK? You guys know what I'm talking about. Give me a yes in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. Where it's just jing bang, and it's always like almost like a fairy tale, like a dream. And, sisters will marry brothers and the brothers are like, yeah, inshallah, I'm going to have my own business. Yeah, inshallah, I want to be an entrepreneur. I don't want to work for no one. I want to be independent and all of this kind of thing. But I fear we don't have the business acumen and we don't have the role models and the mentors to show us the way. So over time, certainly from the 90s, many brothers wanted to go into business, try to set up something here, set up something there. But it was as if we had a failure blueprint. Like when you compare us to the Asian community, for example, even the Arab community, they have a successful blueprint. If they have like a corner shop, and they know how to run that corner shop. And the son is going to also know how to run the corner shop, and the uncle and the cousin and all the rest of them. The restaurant, same thing. They've got a restaurant, they know how to run the restaurant, then the brother's going to run the restaurant, the kids are going to work in the restaurant. There's a tradition of passing on business acumen. There's a tradition of passing on work ethic. I feel like in our community, we don't have that. And guys, if I'm wrong, please just shut me down in the chat. And Brother Nazir, if it's not the case in the US, please, just do the same. But that's something I've noticed in the UK, with Black Muslims in particular.
That's sad but true. It's not different here. The challenge is that some people are sincere and some are not. Some are shiesty, shady, but some just don't have the education. We weren't raised with it. Yeah. So they're trying something new and they don't know how to be professional. You don't know that, to be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. To be late is not an option for a leader if you want to win. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? There's certain philosophies and principles that didn't get pushed down to us, but at the same time, there are basic expectations of professionalism, meaning if you're going to say this is going to be delivered on a certain date, the expectation is it shows up on that date. You can only get so many excuses. At the same time, sometimes we expect more from us in particular, or we try to free sabilillah all the time. It's like, oh brother, why do you have to pay for this? Or why shouldn't it be fi sabilillah? But like, it is fi sabilillah. I'm going to get rewarded on both sides. We offer plenty free stuff, But free stuff is still not going to pay our bills, nor is it going to pay for us going to invest in ourselves the tens of thousands of dollars. But when they go to university with no promise of anything coming from it, they understand that they must pay, that there's a tuition to be paid in addition to the time. So again, there's a mindset. I mean, when I look at just the difference in dealing with outstanding Muslim parents, and then you have outstanding personal relationships. One is specifically and strategically designed to a Muslim audience because there's specific things we do as parents, as Muslims in particular, and being Black. All right, with outstanding personal relationships, the audience is more broad because we're dealing with relationships, marriage, polygyny, everything else. And usually the first people to come out of it are non-Muslims. They come out of their pay and they come out of their pocket, and we help them just as well. And then out of that, from a lot of it, alhamdulillah, is a lot of dawah, a lot of asking about Islam, and a lot about who's, well, how did Islam do this and that? And they want to know, and now they're interested in coming towards Islam. These are extra, benefits that come a part of it. But a lot of times we have the free sabilillah mentality, which that kind of destroys us being able to get good quality content and get out there. So it's dual fold. But again, my thing is going back to the educational piece, not schooling necessarily, but educational piece. Learn what to be professional, how to speak, or you'll get scammed. Like the whole situation with the Muslim Entrepreneur Network with what's that? the Mirza brothers and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Scammed tens of millions of dollars from Muslims.
Yeah.
Targets, but we can't let greed drive us at the same time. We have that, we want to be better and do stuff, we want it easy. If the grass looks greener on the other side, it might actually be. But the challenge is we don't know all the manure that had to go over and they had to go through and grow through to fertilize it. If we're not willing to use that and go through it, we're going to lose. So it's exactly the same thing over here. And we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. That's why Muslims have to rise up and be those standard bearers and set the standard, be professional, put it out there to be that example, to give away excuses from other people. Because those are going to be the ones who win, those who serve the people, do it at a high level of standard and holding ourselves accountable. And by doing that, we're giving other people permission to do the same thing and to do better and better educating the marketplace to be better consumers as well.
Yeah, totally. And again, it's showing what's possible, guys. This is the power really of this platform and so many other platforms like it. It's showing what's possible. I love what Sister Hadiza said, where she's watching this with her kids. And how powerful is that, subhanAllah, not just for the knowledge that hopefully a few sparks will go off. Maybe they may look into some of those books. I think that some of those books have like a kid version or some kind of like a summary that they do because they are, the thing is, this is the thing. The wealthy teach their children about wealth. It's middle-class parents. I'm sorry. Middle-class parents are just trash. Okay, because middle-class parents want to pretend that it's easy or that it's hard, and they don't. Even middle-class parents don't have the acumen themselves because they're not from money. They're not from wealth themselves. So even to be able to teach your children about generational wealth as a middle-class parent, especially someone who has just come into the middle class via education or via marriage, you don't even have that. You don't even know how wealth works. You don't even know how investment works. That intergenerational thing is not a currency that you have. So to be able to offer that to our children, firstly for us to learn ourselves, and then to be able to offer it to our children so that they can have the advantage that many of us didn't have and that many in the world don't have, I think is really, really huge, subhanAllah. So Jazakallah khairan, guys. It's been really an eye-opening session. Another one, right? Another eye-opening session, mashallah. So may Allah reward you and your families in everything that you do. May He put continued barakah in everything that you do. And obviously we know we can meet Brother Nazir at Outstanding Personal Relationships. Sis Maryam, you're on Wealth Paradigm on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Okay, guys, you know what to do. You've got reading lists. You've got YouTube playlists, you've got downloads and all sorts of things. So get busy, inshallah, and we will see you for the crowdfunding workshop. And then we've got our big panel discussion this evening for the entrepreneurs, okay, inshallah. So Jazakallah khairan, everyone. Thank you, Brother Nazir. Thank you, Sister Maryam.
Thank you.
Subhanallah, bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant, wa astaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum.